This is Tales and Whispers, where every story is felt, not just heard.
All right, let's dive into a story that sounds like it's straight out of a fable, but I promise you, it's 100% true. It's all about a financial deal, basically a bet on life that went, well, spectacularly wrong. And I mean spectacularly. So yeah, that's the big question, right? How does a supposedly sure bet on a 90-year-old woman's apartment end up costing a lawyer pretty much everything? I mean, on paper, it looked like a foolproof plan. But life, it has a way of throwing a wrench in the works, doesn't it? Let's find out just how wrong it all went. Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we have to rewind the clock. Picture this. It's 1965. We're in Paris, and at the center of it all is this one really remarkable woman. Her name was Jeanne Calment, and in 1965, she was already 90 years old. Think about that. She'd already seen so much loss. She was a widow, and she'd even outlived her own daughter and her only grandson. Now, she had this beautiful apartment in a really nice part of Paris, but she was totally alone, and her income, it was so tiny she could barely make ends meet. She was, in a really tough, vulnerable spot. And, well, that kind of vulnerability, it gets noticed. A local lawyer saw her situation, and instead of seeing a tragedy, he saw an opportunity, a golden opportunity. He looked at that nice apartment, looked at this elderly woman with no family left, and thought, bingo, this is the deal of a lifetime. So what exactly was this deal of a lifetime? Well, he proposed something that's actually kind of common in France. It's called a viagère. And what it really boils down to is a bet. A bet on how long someone is going to live. The contract looked pretty straightforward. On one side, you have Jeanne Calment. She gets a monthly payment of 2,500 French francs for life, guaranteed. That contract can never be canceled. For her, that's security, right? A steady paycheck for the rest of her days. And on the other side, you have the lawyer. What does he get? Well, he gets her apartment, but only after she dies. He was basically gambling that the total he'd pay her month to month would be way less than the apartment's actual value. And you can see the lawyer's logic, right? It was all based on cold, hard numbers. I mean, life expectancy charts, just common sense. Everything pointed to the fact that a 90-year-old woman wouldn't live for more than, say, 2 or 3 more years. He figured he'd get this amazing apartment for a paltry price. It was a slam dunk, a sure thing. Or so he thought. But, and this is where the story gets really good, that 2 to 3 year timeline, it came, and then it went. And Jeanne Calment, she just kept on living, and living, and living. Just look at this timeline. It's wild. The contract gets signed in 65 when she's 90. Fast forward to 1975. 10 years of payments have gone by. Jeanne hits 100 years old. The lawyer's probably starting to sweat a little, right? He's already paid way more than he planned. Then we hit 1985, 20 years of payments. Jeanne is now 110. And by 1995, the lawyer dies. Jeanne is 120 years old, and she has officially outlived the guy who was betting on her death. So let's look at the final tally. After this 30-year-long bet, who was the unexpected winner? I'm telling you, the conclusion is so ironic you just couldn't make this stuff up. Unbelievably, the lawyer died of cancer after paying her for 30 straight years. He never once set foot in the apartment he thought he'd own. And get this, the story doesn't even end there. His family had to keep making the monthly payments to Jeanne after he died. And the financial hit? It was just staggering. By the time it was all said and done, the total amount the lawyer and his estate had paid out was more than double what the apartment was even worth. His brilliant bargain turned into a complete and total financial disaster. So much for a sure bet, huh? In Jane? Oh, Jane went on to live to the ripe old age of 122, becoming the oldest verified person in history. That deal that was supposed to take advantage of her short time left, it ended up being the very thing that gave her a steady income for 3 whole decades, funding this incredibly long, amazing life. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? I mean, this story is way more than just a weird financial anecdote. It's a huge lesson, isn't it? A lesson about being overconfident, about thinking we can predict everything, and about that one thing we can never, ever really plan for, life itself. There's this one quote that really sums up the whole thing beautifully. It says, "A person might think he can benefit from others through trickery, But he doesn't know that God may have intended for this woman to live at his expense while he dies in regret. Wow. It kind of suggests that maybe what looked like a clever scheme was really just fate's way of taking care of her, completely flipping the script on the guy who thought he had it all figured out. And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on, doesn't it? The lawyer made this massive bet based on what he thought was an absolute certainty. And it just makes you wonder, what bets are we making in our own lives? What things are we so sure about that we take for granted without ever stopping to think that maybe, just maybe, life has a totally different plan in store for us?